Good company. Violent peace.
There is.
Yep, go guys. Okay. I was telling Mary Ellen, I spent all that time organizing this whole table of all the comp plan duties and who they're assigned to. I haven't read them. Totally unprepared for this meeting.
All right, that's just, we're just
You can take notes.
kind of getting started.
I'm also starving because I've been here all day and I came straight out of a meeting, to that meeting to this meeting. I'm probably gonna have to do this.
And if I had a meeting earlier today, then I got a meeting after this.
People are too
I
busy
don't think I
here.
can make it to another one tonight.
That's so level.
May have left my comprehensive plan notes. Oh, she's, well, I had all the comments about the
Yeah,
status, we can still talk about it, just I wrote it all down. I had my history reading
yeah.
in the mixture of files, I left that one behind.
Everything's fine, you can start the meeting, sorry, I'm trying to log into my Microsoft account so I can pull things up and it doesn't like my password, even though I know the password is correct. I'm crazy. Don't let me
What else is
over
gonna
there.
work with the laptops and minutes to finish with the whole.
Oh, I can actually, Jeff, it's sort of somehow getting your face even though your laptop's there. Put it up on the table again.
You say it actually is working?
Yeah,
Okay, how
I'm
about
not
this?
sure how, but it's like angled up. Yeah, my face is totally in the
Maybe it's
frame.
on the top, not on the sides.
I don't know how it's doing it. I guess the camera's in here, yes. But it's like somehow angling up at our faces, so
Yeah, the fourth.
it's working.
It's the lens effect.
He gives us help professors.
Call when you're ready.
We're ready.
Okay. Let's call the special meeting of the planning board. Open at 6:58. We have a quorum. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for getting down to the site review early. So the one agenda item that we have is to review the comprehensive planning. Comprehensive plan list of to-do things for the planning board. And begin to talk about which ones we would like to work on here. And my thought is we'll go around the table and everybody talk about the ones, however many you have on your priority list. I was thinking 3 would be a good number to work with. Go around the table and see.
Are we going to make a decision about the pier?
At our next meeting.
Okay, so I wasn't sure whether this gentleman needs to take.
I thought you were doing it this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
When you asked, when we we're going to do it, I should have been clear, yeah, our next step.
Fair
I
enough.
apologize.
Enjoy your meeting this evening.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
It's the second Wednesday,
Yeah.
second one, yeah,
The 9th, is that?
I'd have to look it up.
The 10th.
Second?
And would you like me present?
It's totally up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we have the materials, I thought the presentation today was good, we had, everybody. Well versed in it. We have a checklist,
Yeah.
that you're familiar with, so we're just gonna go down the checklist. So.
I will certainly try to make it, but we've been finding that there's quite often several towns
Of
have
course,
the same meeting night, so if I can make it, I will.
if there's anything you think will be the least bit controversial, feel free to send us an email or something. You know the checklist, we're gonna get down and, decision. So, whether you come or have somebody else come to make our final presentation is totally up to you. We have the application and we can certainly act on it.
Okay, you said it was September.
Um,
She said 10th.
So,
It's a
10th.
Wednesday.
the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, great,
is it
Yeah.
close?
okay.
So sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, thank you.
In terms of going over the covers, but I think, I thought we were gonna go over this before trying to prioritize. To actually talk about it, find out, and responsibility.
It's up to you guys. I mean, however you wanna do it. I thought it would be more efficient if we went around the room because everybody's hopefully done that, gone through the list. And consider them and we hit we start to talk about or start to focus on where we may have consensus as to which ones we want to work on.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Are we gonna work on the consensus as to what each one of us is gonna do individually, or a consensus as to what the whole planning board is gonna try to work on as 3 or 4?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think that's something we can talk about tonight. I think we could go either way.
Yeah.
I think, we may, a few of us or all of us may have strong feelings about one thing or another
Yeah.
and just want to go. My original thought when we talked about this was, we identify whatever number we feel we can with the board.
Yeah.
And, let's say it's 3 or 5. And then we, create, kind of mini subcommittee to work on each one of those, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then present to the full board, whatever recommendations they have with respect to that item. So that's one way to go, but that's, that's part of what we want to talk about tonight is. How we want to do whatever we decide to do. So let's structure, first one, before I forget, thank you so much for raising the SU issue.
Well, I saw him over your shoulder. I'm thinking he doesn't want to participate in our comp plan discussions.
Yeah, I thought I told him, our next meeting.
Well, frankly, I thought we were gonna talk about it as well.
Well,
I misunderstood.
Yeah, I thought that you were gonna try to just vote on it after this, just like the select board did, they did their process.
We didn't put it on the agenda, what I anticipated, I anticipate putting it on, deciding that it's meeting as we have in the past. Okay.
Well, so is it also, we then have to, write it up, which again isn't probably much,
Yeah.
but then at the meeting, the next meeting, we actually approve the write-up.
Well, we're gonna do both at the next meeting. That was my suggestion. All right, so, and we didn't schedule it. All right, so let me just structure,
Let's just on that point. I thought we set this up partially as special because I'm gonna be gone the next couple weeks. Because I was gonna help walk us through the comprehensive plan and the action items.
Yeah.
So I thought, so I actually came prepared to, this is why I'm sorry, I left my stuff behind, to talk about them with some context.
yeah.
Cause I actually
Let's
think
do
it's
it.
easier to do, and then to talk about where to put the energies.
Let's get started.
That's fine.
Let's get started.
Yeah.
All of the above,
Yeah.
we're here to talk about the comprehensive plan. And so the first question is, what do we want to accomplish tonight? And, your suggestion is,
My suggestion is we go through and see what we originally were tasked with doing 5 years ago. And talk also as we go through them, what the status is, and then get some flavor, because they also interrelate. And each item doesn't really stand on its own. In fact, some of the items are relying on other committees to do some work that feeds us, so we work with other committees. So that's some of the nuances, I think, that's helpful to understand. And then we can come down, I think, to talk about what's the most important thing we can be working on now, or steps forward may be.
But some of these also link together very closely.
They do.
I mean, you put them pretty much in categories, but within those categories, you can find that certain numbers kind of pull together as well.
And actually, it's ultimately easier to look at them in context with the other, it's not just planning board, but the other committees.
Yeah.
So the way it's listed, what I didn't bring with me is I actually annotated what April did, where they originally came from. Because it helps to give some ways. You'll see sometimes say something very similar. That's because they're talking about natural resources saved versus roads versus economy.
Okay.
Because we structured the comprehensive plan around topic areas.
So, to the extent we individually have already done that, one approach would be to go around, talk about the ones you selected. But April said, she hasn't had a chance to look at it, other than you do.
I'm doing it right now. You Jeff, you can go ahead. I'm just like,
But it's
I'm almost
up to you
done.
guys.
I like the idea of, if, depending on how long it's gonna take, of Jeff giving us an overview of what was proposed or what was included 5 years ago. A summary of what you think has been accomplished, and
And I think partially just talk about what the planning board, explanation of the planning board are telling us.
Okay,
But
I'm a fan of that.
yeah.
This seems like a really big, massive thing to.
Yeah.
We
We could spend 3 weeks doing it. So if we can move through it,
Yeah, well, we start.
because we all have the comprehensive plan, we can only go to our for tonight, so, I don't wanna waste our, I should say, so I don't wanna, spend time doing.
can you do it in 20 minutes?
His part,
Yeah,
or can we do the whole thing?
well, I mean, I think Jeff's part, if you're gonna give an overview in the context, if you can do it in 20 minutes, then we'll still have 40 minutes left to hash around. If we're
Okay,
really
well,
figuring it out.
actually, I was thinking we would talk about the status of the items that the planning board items. So that actually is kind of going down through the minutes.
Oh, okay, all together. I mean, that's fine too.
But why, well,
How many items are there
40,
for us specifically?
Yeah.
yeah,
Sort of.
Certainly a few broad categories, really.
yeah.
It's 41, but
You've got some that affect climate change, you got some that affect agriculture,
Yep.
you've got some that affect,
That's because they're all,
natural
they're sort of the
habitat,
same responsibilities,
yeah.
but in different categories, because that's where the need came from.
Yeah,
So let me go over, I can't tell you it'll take 20 minutes, but let's see how it goes.
is this gonna be like you go over it and we go back and forth and then we go?
No, I'd just kind of go through and then if you have a question, ask. Yeah, so starting off in your list, April's fine in terms of the order, because they really are tied back in section. The first one comes out of the history group. And the history group really hasn't done much work here, so I don't know that there's anything really to do unless the history committee starts.
Our piece is
Pushing that
putting
way.
it in an ordinance, sounds like. Then work to incorporate that protection to Westport Island's land use ordinances. I think that's our part of the,
That's right, because that's gonna be consistently through here, that's what the planning board's role is the land use ordinances.
Yeah.
So this is, from a history perspective, this is what we'd be doing. I'm saying that this one probably is not on top of mind because the history committee needs to run this.
Yeah.
well, let's go through them, some of them,
Yeah.
without making any judgments about which ones are important.
Okay.
Because that's what we're doing.
Okay. Getting the natural resources ones. Same sort of context, because I think the natural resources, it's really bringing, we need to make sure, the planning board's responsibility is to make sure that we're consistent with state law. State requirements.
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting. Looks like you're working from a list that's different from.
I'm working from the original.
this is the list that you gave
Yeah,
us.
this is what I have at home, but unfortunately.
Okay, is that what they're going through?
Well, partially because it's helpful for me to see the bigger context.
Okay, that's.
But John, I'm going down and seeing where this is going, and I'm not actually talking about each one. I'm talking about each area.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
your list is different than,
but I'm talking about the natural resources. So the next one down on the list is.
I think my list came from the comp
It
plan.
did,
If you're
and
looking at the original comp
That's
plan.
right.
I didn't put the bigger
I'm,
categories because just formatting,
And
but if you open the comp plan, John, that's
it's the same order.
right.
okay, the list that you all have marked up
Mhm.
is not the list that you're reading from.
It
So now
is,
we have to search and look for the natural resources.
no, John, it's not order.
It's the
So
same
the next one down list is gonna be the natural resources.
2, 3, 5. Right there.
The next one I saw was identify any capital improvements needed to maintain or upgrade public services. That's not what you're talking about, is it?
That's the first one, and that's one that's assigned to everybody.
Ah, first one is the history committee.
Yeah,
go.
that's what he was
That's
talking
number
about.
That's right.
That's number one on your list.
That's right.
Right?
Well,
Hmm.
oh, yes, okay,
And there's a couple of that you had out of order.
yeah.
Uh,
I can't guarantee the cut and paste is exactly the same,
No,
but it's.
but it's pretty close. Pretty much the whole block goes down.
I don't want to be searching through my list while
Right.
you're talking. I'd like to go through, can you work from her list?
It's a little harder.
I think it's
Okay.
the same. Why don't you look at both?
John's list is her list, but he just took and highlighted each one to separate it, so it looked a little.
Both lists. I just want to make sure we're all talking on, we're all
You connect
literally
to
on the
the
same page.
How do you connect to the internet?
So password.
So number two
No, there should be public
is
internet.
identify any capital improvements.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And actually comes out of growth. You noted that.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah. So that's not next in the line, but basically it's just saying, you have to identify the capital improvements needed to maintain public.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
was,
everybody.
that was applied to every single official, every single
That's
committee,
everybody.
and that's why it's sorted to the top
I've
on my
read,
list.
you don't,
Yeah.
nobody needs to explain it.
Yeah.
Let's just go through it and
Okay.
say, hit the highlights that you wanted to
Yeah.
share with us.
Well, this is talking, because I want to go fast, and I'm not gonna talk about each individual one, but the next block of them are the natural resources.
Right.
And again, as I said, the kind of the point here is to see that the ordinances track with state law with regard to, and it's partially responsible to the Conservation Commission to be doing that, and then our job comes into, as it says here, through the local land use ordinance require subdivision on residential property developers to look for and identify critical natural resources. This is one of the key nuances that we did in the comprehensive plan, was that we want to look at things not just as state law, but also say if we have something that's a viewscape. This comes up a couple of times in the state statements, something that's a great view. How can we help preserve them? What can we do to write into our ordinances to preserve a viewscape? The example we used was, where Daphne is, at her place. And
Mhm.
across from Daphne is a meadow,
Was a metal.
was a meadow. Point is, that was one of the viewscapes we said we'd love to preserve. Unfortunately, when Calvin Cromwell gave his grandson property, it got developed in a way that. So that was one of the missed opportunities, but that's reflected in the concern in the natural resources. How can we preserve the natural resources, even when it's not required by state law? And the viewscapes is one of the harder things to do. The next one talks about how to, how to incorporate as part of the review process, consideration of pertinent. And that's beginning with habitat. You caught that.
What's that?
You got the beginning with habitat.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I got them downloaded.
You got it good. Okay. Because that's another source of information that we can use.
Mhm.
Is that what a BWH map is?
Yeah,
That's what it
beginning with habitat, yeah,
So if you do
They
begin
do
with
by
habitat,
town. And they have 3 maps for Westport,
yeah, you can Google them and find them on the state site.
the square. But
Okay. And the other developed land use ordinance options to achieve the build out stage. the rural, how do we get the rural character? This is also gonna show up with regard to housing. One of the concerns is that we fully build out per the current ordinance. What's the minimum lot size? What could you actually build out? Knowing that that's a threat to us, that you could, if we subdivided all the properties that are, 3 or 4 acres in size, that's the full build out. Well, our problem is how do we maintain the rural character if we actually fully do the building? So that's that consideration is how can we look at our ordinances to still retain the rural character?
Have they done the build out analysis, the conservation committee?
We did that, they have not, we did that as a rough one during the plan review. And so I don't remember the details, so some of that's probably in the plan itself. Dennis did the analysis. This is the conservation committee representative, conservation commission representative. And it's number 7 is the point about the view preservation, the viewscapes. Okay.
You should talk to the Wilsons. To preserve their view.
Pardon me? I didn't hear you.
We should talk to the Wilsons about preserving their view.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The next is a section here of amend local land use ordinances applicable to incorporate stormwater runoff. So there are several things that tie back, and this again is tying back to state regulations. So our concern about stormwater, this is state regulations are more oriented towards the city. But even so, we have to consider concerns about water. Runoff could be from lawn fertilizers. And that also shouldn't be running off into the waterways, into the sheepskin or the local ponds either. So that's that section. We're getting a little bit into so the next one on
It's double sided.
the land use ordinances, including minimum lot sizes, is getting into the impact on the water table.
You know, it's funny because there's contradictory tasks in here.
Yeah.
I'm out of order, so I'm just going through the list quickly, catch up, but there, you have concerns about lot size in terms of rural character. And then later on, you have concerns about lot size in terms of housing and density. So
Yeah.
it's saying, oh, don't make the lot size too small, because we need rural character. And then later on, it's saying, but be flexible on the lot size, maybe allow more splitting because we need density.
Do you know why that would be?
But then you gotta worry about the water situation too. If you put too many
Well, I
wells
see
too
the
close.
competing interests, but it's just funny that they're both in this list.
Well, they're there because we had a concern as a town about our water resources.
Right.
And we have a concern as a town keeping rural character. But the state mandates, if you, the first part of the, before you get to these action items, and I passed on originally the goals.
Yeah.
The state gives us goals. One of the goals is to have affordable housing and actually to have a certain amount of affordable housing available. We actually take it under the housing rule. So that's why you're gonna have, from an affordability size, from a rural character size, not.
Right.
And we'll have to, and that's partially our job, as it comes down to, it's just juggling that.
I can't remember if I think there is information companies plan about the current stock of housing. And my recollection is, maybe from research I did on my own, that we're well within the favorable zone, affordable stock. I think we've got about 30% of our housing.
That sounds about what we came up with, but it goes back to what you define as
Affordable.
affordable.
Well, I think, oh, well,
So it's gonna be kind of a moving
There-
target.
well, I think there's data on that, but I mean, there's a formula for that, but I think the question is what's the appropriate percentage? And I'd say 10% was what the state was targeting.
No, that's almost, that's what we said we would commit to.
Oh, but I think we're at 30%.
We were somewhat more. I don't remember the exact number, but that in the analysis, and this is more of a Gary Richardson point. was that he believed that we were flying.
Yeah, I think we surpassed the state expectations on that.
But one reason why this is it's still something to come back to is the state would like us to develop a growth area. To sort of plan and target, and actually this came out of the county's work, the last 3 years and looking for affordable housing. The county was pushing towns to think about if you were to provide, this is more for towns that have water and sewer,
It's hard to do
to put water and sewer facilities. And you can make a property now more dense
Right.
and designate it, so we're gonna call this our dense housing area.
Right.
Less applicable to us, but that's behind the scenes, the state is now pushing us in that direction. Good. So when we had water quality, adopt water quality protection practices and standards for construction. Just, oh, by the way, there are standards for roads. We have it again in our ordinances down when we have the, now some standards for driveways, but also for subdivisions. So we had some of that already. And number 11, consult with Maine Forest Service, District Forest, if any land use regulations pertaining to forest management practices are considered. So this is the section that focuses on, it's kind of skips over all marine resources. But I'll point out that there may be something, most of the marine resources don't deal with land use regulations. But when we talk about like a marine district, then there's a possibility of that dovetailing here with the marine resources. But it wasn't called out, nothing planning board was called out for that section. But in the agriculture and forest resources, first off was, again, with the forest management practices. And this was partially because we had concerns about some of the cutting of the and not following good practices. So that's partially what that called it. Another thing in this general context, the agriculture and forest resources, the state is encouraging towns to identify resources like forest land that's valuable and agriculture land, which is valuable. And not so relevant to Westport Island because there isn't a lot of prime farmland. The only other undeveloped prime farmland, I think, is in the Hopkins Road area. And also the Parsons property, the old Parsons property off of Baker Road. So there's some sections there that, if you look at the soil maps, actually are somewhat prime. But in terms of forest resources, that also dovetails well with the desire to maintain rural character. And so to have woodlands is useful. So part of what the recommending here is how to have language, say, for retaining large stands of timber, is one of the things that falls under the planning board. Incorporate the freedom to farm concept. That's number 13 on the list. So that's a factor where there's nothing stopping people from farming today if they go through the process and want to do that. But part of a freedom to farm concept was to allow non-commercial farming activity. And so people raising chickens, people raising small livestock would be that type of activity. And coming out of the comprehensive plan, we said, well, we want to, make that possible, that people could do that. And as part of maintaining the rural character. We don't have anything specifically in our ordinances that does that. There's again nothing that prohibits it either. There's a couple things relating to the agriculture and buildings. And this partially, to be honest, it comes from my experience and Kyle's experience, that we don't include greenhouses as a taxable item because we've got a greenhouse that the town was taxing. And most agricultural areas have a relaxed building code when it comes to seasonal housing, seasonal workers. So if you're going to be having somebody there seasonally doing work, Maybe make it okay if they have a composting toilet. As opposed to having to have a regular water toilet. So that was some of the thought there in those. So those are actions again to adjust our building code to allow for that. The greenhouses point is back to the selectmen and assessors. And. Yep, okay, permit land use activities that support productive agriculture and forestry operations such as roadside stands, greenhouses and so forth.
Sawmills and log buying yards.
Yeah, how about that?
How about that?
Again, we could see if there's something that we want to add to ordinances that makes it more acceptable. There's nothing necessarily that prohibits that. The one thing might be the roadside stands might be a concern. As another accessory building that,
Or triggering site plan review.
good, good. Okay, getting into recreation. There's nothing on recreation then, I think, that showed up for the planning board. The next one is the monitor demographic changes, especially changes in the aging population, population.
How do we do that? I mean, some of these were like data gathering things and I'm
Yeah.
like, is this something that the state does for us? Is this something the staff needs to come up with? It seems like a weird thing for a committee to be tasked with.
It depends.
Except for school kids' data, the state doesn't collect any data on an annual basis.
Yeah.
So you. Yeah, but you know, there's demographic information that comes out from the feds.
And it's, we're talking American Community Survey, it's,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
estimates, those are estimates.
You know, and when we looked at it for our conference plans, like,
Yeah,
Believe
it's hard,
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
But except for this, but they do collect data on enrollments and youngsters and births and deaths, things like that, but it's not, yeah.
But. We had data in terms of age. We actually do have from, you know, the voting rules. Again, it's not 100% everybody, but you actually have the age data there in terms of the voting rules.
Eating, you're just good.
Would anybody like pizza?
No, go for it. Go for
I
it.
have more than enough.
Go for it.
Want me to heat it up for you?
I like it.
So pretty much the population demographics is saying we need to be actually keeping track of what's going on with the town. And an important feature of the town is the age. And there's elements at the county level to think about what we need to do for an aging population. And with Westport being one of the oldest, if not the oldest town, I think Southport's actually the oldest town in the county.
So we don't have that information available handy at this point.
We could probably put it together.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We don't
just
have-
grab this from this,
We don't compile.
Yeah.
parse this from this database, parse this from another one.
That seems a little misassigned. What would we do with that
Yeah.
information in terms of land use planning? Set up 55 and over communities or things?
No, but I think
That would be-
it's the flow, continuing on down. It's, someone needs to do it and the planning board got tagged with that.
Yeah, I think
You
it's
don't have to
less,
agree.
I mean, I think it should be tracked. I did think it was a weird thing to assign to the planning board.
Yeah,
But things like, grants you can get from the DOT for, making it easier for elder populations to, move around the community, like sidewalks and
Golf course.
whatever, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
pulling examples, but I know that there's grants that relate to how much of an elderly population you have.
mhm.
But that isn't really something the planning board would do necessarily.
Elsewhere, there's actually something where we sort of expect the town office to do some
Mhm.
data collection, and this might be more applicable to the town office.
So you mentioned grants. Well, couldn't we get grants to bring some people in to do that? So that, you know, you could just facilitate it that way.
Oh, grants for the data collection?
Yeah, so that, you know, data parsing, so that you guys in the office don't have to do it.
It's not hard, it's just a matter of like looking it up and writing it down and having it in a chart. I don't think it would justify a position or
Yeah.
having someone come in, but
I think this is a good example of something where it says planning board, but it's not something we really think
Yeah.
we would do.
So we delegate it. That's what we do.
Yeah, and again, because there's other data collection, which it makes sense that the town office do. But part of the flow of this is saying this information is useful because you want to get into then, okay, what about schools? What about recreational opportunities? And that goes into other sections. So this section here is less on, it stands on its own, it's more supporting
Yeah.
the other parts of the comprehensive plan.
Oh, it's the AARP Walkable Communities Grant. That's what I was trying to think of.
Hey,
And they do things like sidewalks, but they do other stuff for rural communities, like
Yeah.
trails that are nice and level and things like that.
So, yeah, the other adapt and review, revise municipal services to respond to demographic changes. That's gonna be continuing a part of discussion, because how do we handle things when we start having residents who really can't drive? But wanna stay in their homes? Okay, public facilities, I think there's nothing here. The next one, now we're coming to the housing. And maintain, enact or amend land use regulations to increase density, decrease lot size. So, you notice we're waffled on this one, it's a planning board or a housing subcommittee of the board. Cause frankly, I don't think we were that excited about it. But LD 2003 wasn't on the horizon at the time.
Right.
And I mean, that's part of what the story is, that LD 2003 actually did do one of the things on the list. But these were things that the state required. So it shows up on our to-do list. Next one, maintain an act or amend ordinance to allow the addition of a single accessory unit. Apartment, okay, here's the LD 2003. So we can mark that, and say, yep, we've got that. There are maintain current land use ordinances allowing modular and mobile homes. We do allow that, so it's not like there was something to do there, but we don't allow or encourage mobile home parks. You know,
Right.
a multi unit development.
And we don't have something for tiny houses either.
Yeah,
So,
but we don't have anything that says, well. Is it, does our stuff say we can't have a tiny house? Is it just?
town, no, it's a tiny house.
I know, tiny house.
Yeah,
Is there anything in our ordinances that says we can't?
There's nothing says we can't,
Yeah,
yeah,
nothing that promotes it.
but we don't have it as
Here's not
an item to define it. That's the key.
So we allow mobile homes.
Yep.
What's the difference? So like a mobile home park is just a piece of land that's owned in common with multiple dwellings on it,
Yeah.
right? And so
But-
is it the structure we don't allow?
It's a bit more than, because you're,
Right.
well, your turn.
No, water and sewer, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you don't have the water and sewer, then you're gonna end up with the problems that was Skagit Park, you know.
Yeah.
homes have.
And so it's like a
gotta be well
density
done.
issue.
It's density plus
Yeah.
capacity for water and sewer and roads, things like that, and
yeah.
responsible ownership.
Exactly.
so it's like a subdivision, but it's very dense and condensed.
And more
Yeah.
and more of them are becoming cooperatively owned.
Yeah.
Right,
I know there's only a few in Maine, really.
which I think is great and really cool concept for
Yeah.
affordable housing, so I like that concept. So I'm kind of like, why don't we allow them here?
Well,
Well,
we
so
allow
the water,
mobile homes.
the water and the sewer.
Yeah,
But also like the same land structures that like legal ownership structures that are used for mobile home parks are used for communes, tiny home parks, you know, or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
people who want to live together in community
Yeah.
from my homesteading days. So I remember that and I was just curious how we prevent that from happening here.
Yeah.
What's the
it's the
mechanism?
number of bathrooms. So
The
it goes
density.
back to do you have the septic?
Yeah.
Capacity, the number of bedrooms.
Yeah.
That you have.
I see.
Um,
So it's more a
Mm.
density problem. Like, what if you had a giant piece of land? What if you had 10 acres? And you wanted to own it in common, but everybody has a tiny house on 2 acres. Would that be allowed?
This is something.
It's a subdivision. It's
Yeah.
different.
It's a good point, though, because they haven't
You could-
divided it yet, they've just added it. So I think it doesn't work because you're gonna have more dwelling units on that parcel
yeah.
than would be allowed.
Yeah, there's a lot requirement, there is size,
Yeah.
lot.
Mm, interesting.
So then there was an issue with tiny houses with what if they put the wheels on the tiny house just before tax evaluation?
Yeah.
And then take them off, wheel it off the property, put it back on again,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
Look fun.
Yeah, I got a friend who, bring up, who bought a tiny home.
Yeah.
And he's using it, he lives in it some of the time, but he's actually doing it at the Airbnb as well.
Yeah.
But it's a nice, small structure.
Yeah.
And, he has that in Woolwich, in addition to his, seasonal worker housing, because he also owns a farm.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the housing section. It was important, but that's also Gary's section, and I think he minimized us doing anything out of that. His last item on the selectmen is maintain a level of at least 10% affordable housing stock. Not the selectmen have any say over that, even though it's their responsibility, but it's again point, pay attention. Someone needs to be paying attention. Do we have enough? Transportation has a lot of action items. So you see a lot of them are duplicative, or there's a nuance there where it's really the same thing. So bear with that. It's partially because we had Bob,
Mooney?
no,
Oh, Bob Fons?
Bob Fonts,
Okay.
who did this for us, thanks to Mary Ellen. And he was an excellent guy, but he also was very detailed. So you see a lot here. So amend local ordinances, maintain, enact, or amend local ordinances appropriate to address or avoid conflicts with, and then policy objectives for sensible transportation, state access management regulations. This would be getting into, access to roadways, I believe. And then state traffic permitting regulations for large developments. So there's a lot of specifics here that the planning is responsible for. Select board has a say, and ultimately gets taken to the town meeting. And if you were to look at the detailed sheet here, all three of them are identified as responsible. But the planning board's only part of this.
I think Bob always favored putting as much in as you can in order for your plan to be accepted by the state. So if you leave a lot of things out, they're gonna come after you, so.
Yeah.
He's so thorough.
And he was a good guy. So it talks about amending ordinance standards for subdivisions and for public and private roads as appropriate to foster transportation efficient growth patterns. That's a tough one. What's a transportation efficient growth pattern? So he's using terminology here that I don't think we fully understood. So bear that in mind as you look at these. Because it does talk, he's getting into transportation, ultimately also gets into, it could be buses. It
Right.
could be providing some type of public transportation.
Yeah.
So you
Taxis.
get that further into this, that's part of what he's suggesting, something that could be an option. Impact fees is interesting. So when we have to pay for our roads. If the amount of traffic goes up, does that have an impact on road wear? And on the cost to us over the long haul to maintain. So what he put in here, in terms of impact fees, was possibly we could do like some towns and cities do. When there's a development, major subdivision, you build into your ordinances that you will pay an impact fee. Portland uses that also to subsidize affordable housing, but other towns use it to pay for this infrastructure for development, and for us, that's primarily roads. And that's why it shows up transportation. So that's what that's about. It was an interesting concept. The maintain local ordinances for state regulations, yep, consider capital fee. That use transportation policies to guide growth to safe locations and limit access to natural hazard areas. I think this is where the number got out of whack.
Yeah, I'm a little lost in my list too.
Yeah, because it kind of jumped around, because the next thing that we had originally from the planning board was pedestrians and bicycles.
Right.
One of the things that was came up in the survey we did of people was the interest in having the main road be more walkable
Mhm.
and safer for bicycles.
Yeah.
And indeed, putting in a bike lane was pretty high up there in terms of people's ideas and objectives.
Would it be on both sides?
Well, we didn't say.
It's not.
What we bumped into right
That's
away
right,
was,
but-
we talked to the state and said, okay, you have to put in a bike lane, you
Mhm.
still have to have like a 3-foot shoulder, so you're
Right.
basically taking a lot of land
Mhm.
Yeah.
on one side.
Yeah.
Cause it's even just do one side, and that would be very, very expensive.
Never
Yeah.
mind a bike lane, just a shoulder.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes,
we even get
sure.
shoulders, they said
Yeah.
$1 million a mile,
Yeah.
$1 million a mile, we're not doing it for you.
Yeah.
We do it for things like, Booth Bay, they do it for those major corridors, but we don't
Mhm.
have nearly enough traffic that they
Right.
would do it. However, if we put the desire for it in our comprehensive plan, they will consider it. And there are
Ah.
grants and stuff that I'm trying to get a DOT guy to come down here and talk to us about.
Great, that's great.
But this is the point, we have it in our comprehensive plan, but this is something that we'd like to be able to do.
Yeah.
Just extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Uh,
Particularly with some houses are already very close to the road.
Yeah, this is,
The
this is.
paper trees, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll
the
see it.
Trees, yeah, too.
Elsewhere down here, I don't think it's in transportation, I think it may be in recreation, was paths, hiking paths, trails.
Mhm. Yeah,
So that's another consideration as well, that comes in.
so question, where do the preserves play into the rural character?
They show up.
They should show up as a quantity, right? A number of, or percentage of our acreage on the island?
They would, absolutely.
Yeah.
When it's expanding, but there's actually earlier, I didn't talk to it, but if you go back up to the natural resources section, Kelt actually shows up
Mhm.
as a player to help us
Right.
preserve
Right.
the natural environment. But that's absolutely a factor.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so this is, if I go back to April's list. 26 was used transportation policies to guide growth to safe locations and limit access to natural hazard areas. The context of this is climate change and other things that impact areas.
Mhm.
So it's talking about what's a safe location.
Yeah.
Well, and this is where, again, I think that the language is tough. But from the context, it means safe from a climate change situation. You want to have landslides in developing an area. Again, maybe it's not so much our issue, but and we don't want to have development going into areas that would have natural hazards, low-lying areas, where you're going to have salt water coming in with storm surge.
Well, we get microbursts now on this island, so that's gonna be a consideration of climate change, because that takes trees down. And that is a hazard.
Well, again, we're gonna try to deal with it in a different way, but the causeways, the connection, the West
Yeah.
Shore Road causeways. I mean,
Mhm.
I know we're trying to get leverage money to try to fix those, right? Maybe. But again, if there was another situation where you had low-lying land and we all learned from climate change here about storm surges and things like that, then we're gonna try to discourage development. I mean, it's more complicated than that.
Well, the number 27 is minimize risk to key transportation assets from floods, storms, and so forth. Again, context of climate change in terms of we can expect more issues developing. So when we talk about land use, we got to think about retrofitting or replacement of utilities. And reflect, best available information on climate change risks.
How does this dovetail with the floodplain ordinance, which I'll be honest, I haven't really dug in too much. But floodplain is, I would assume, would be about climate change risks, right? I know,
They only get updated how many, every 10 years, every 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, they're there for insurance purposes and for us to use when we're okaying a subdivision or something like that.
Right.
We need that kind of data,
Yeah.
but it's only part of the site, part of the sea level rise data.
And that's the floodplain, that's the data, but you talked about an ordinance.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's,
Don't we have an ordinance? I think you have to have the ordinance once.
we do have an ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
but we don't use it.
Ordinance.
Isn't it being used in, when we, well, here,
There
there's
are
big.
three areas, I think, on the island that are floodplain.
I haven't looked at the maps, I don't know, but you're gonna find a lot along the shore for sure.
Yeah, but couldn't we use that to inform land use, or do we, or no?
No, we could when it's appropriate, we should.
Yeah,
Um,
just curious if that was a tool in our toolbox. I haven't looked into floodplain. I kind of remember we enacted it so that people can get insurance. It had something to do with insurance and
yeah.
private landowners, and if you don't have the ordinance, it's harder for them.
Mhm.
But couldn't there be an added benefit with like land use planning, maybe?
Well,
Yes,
it's
yeah.
but based upon the data, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And same thing in terms of, looking at the maps to see where you're gonna sea level rise.
Yeah.
That's another major factor.
Yeah.
But mostly it hasn't been a factor when we've looked at subdivisions.
Mm.
Of course, we haven't looked at many subdivisions, but when they don't seem to come forward. The Crooker Road has been the only thing we've looked at in years.
Mm.
But you have number 28, is convene a long-range plan committee to monitor comprehensive plan compliance and recommend corrective action.
Yeah,
In the context of that, I'm trying to see where that fit in.
future land use plan comes after, right, the first thing after transportation.
Yeah, so the thought here was that, it's here, and it shows selectmen and planning board, and it also says the period is quarterly. So the original thought when we put this together in 2019 was that we would quarterly be looking at this. And again, the comprehensive plan isn't just planning board, selectmen, it's pretty much all the committees that you saw up there. So, never happened. And part of the context is coming out of 2019, we sort of did
Yeah.
got that over. And then 2020, when we should have been working on that, what happens? COVID. And basically, all this stuff got put to one side. So, mea culpa, but that's why it didn't.
We're
come up.
working on it really hard at the moment, I'm working on it and the select board's working on it. Basically,
Really?
I'm trying to get something ready that they can pass. But we're trying to build into, so we did this new committees thing where they're gonna meet each year, beginning of the fiscal year with every committee. They're gonna do that every year.
Mhm.
And what we should have done this year, but we didn't think of it, was go over the comprehensive plan goals with every committee. They came up with these goals. And luckily, we look back and we're like, oh, they do all kind of map onto the comprehensive plan, so they were already thinking in a way that the comprehensive plan suggested, so that was good. But we'll be more explicit about it and be like, this is what the comprehensive plan says your committee should be working on. You know, and here's some like concrete items from within those goals for this fiscal year, but let's monitor that. And then do a check-in halfway through the year and then at the end of the year. So it's not quite quarterly, but they're trying to build in like a process that's in a policy so that they know and the committees know and no one forgets that we're supposed to do these things every year. And then they're gonna work on developing that for officials as well, because like the CEO and the fire chief and the EMA manager all have jobs in this comprehensive plan. We have no annual review. We have no process for saying, are you working on this and how, and can you work on it?
A few
So-
times you should probably have run into, created an implementation committee. And so after people get exhausted, it's the hardest thing is to add people to an implementation committee, but most planning boards or, comp plan committees understand that it's gotta be implemented and just figuring out how to do it, but we got through COVID and now you guys are coming up with an interesting process.
Personally, I don't know if a committee would be the best. I feel like it should be built right into all your stuff, like. You're gonna have a comp plan every 10 years, and that should inform everything everybody does until you redo it in 10 years. Like it should be built into your staff and your
Well-
committees and everything, right? Like the whole policy.
Well, what you all are proposing to do, is include it basically into the annual audit of the committees, and that makes sense.
Yeah, and staff annual reviews, like the employee HR process, like.
Yeah.
It all should tie back to this, I think.
I see, I agree, and I think it's a nice way to tell it. Again, I think just the other caveat though is that this was a sense of point in time for things that were key, and then new things come up as well.
It's gotta change.
Yeah, so, and again, it's important, you've gotta be coming back and saying what else.
Mhm.
So, and this doesn't fit every committee. So not every committee has things to do out of this.
Most of them do though, actually. It's
Well-
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of them that have done nothing for a long time have some really big jobs, and we're like, what? Harbor Committee, get over here, it'll work for you.
Most of the future land use plan section is heavily planning board. And where it's not, they're still sort of in the background because of the role we have with the land use ordinances. So you know, somebody else has the primary, we may have to be leading up to it. So maintain, enact, or amend local ordinances as appropriate, to define the desired scale, intensity, location of future development. So again, we've been talking about, you know, density concerns, talking about development, subdivisions. This is where, again, we're supposed to, this is kind of overlapping, it's redundant.
Yeah.
To the other stuff. Permitting procedures, though, this is interesting, maintain fair and efficient permitting procedures. So this is saying, it's part of our concern is to make it as easy or as appropriate as possible. Maybe isn't always the most important thing. Define protective measures for critical and important natural resources. This goes back to natural resources, know what they are, what do we do that have to protect them? Planning board would come up with any ordinance changes to protect them. Define protective measures to safeguard critical rural and or waterfront areas, same point. And that goes back again to the viewscapes, was part of what we're thinking there. Capital investment plan, now we're getting into some of the other stuff, that doesn't so much affect us until they get to building things. Update water resource study such that the Stratex report, such as the Stratex report, establish a new baseline for information regarding in-ground water resources. So that was a pretty major thing that we pushed for, that we wanted to redo the Stratex, and indeed that's what we did. So that's a yes, we did that one.
I think I didn't even put it in the list that I emailed out to you guys because I was like, it's done. So I don't see it here.
Just to be.
It's in there.
It's
Is it in there?
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay, I was like,
Yeah.
did I?
Yeah, it's your number 33.
Yeah.
Number 34 is establish a database for tracking development with staff. That's again where we were thinking, it's something that somehow the office would do. Not quite sure who gets tagged with that, but we thought,
Ashley.
could be. It could also be Gary. Since he's, until someone else receives the building permit request. Note that one of the items was explore regional funding applications for state funds supporting high-speed internet connection resources. So it's another one, we did that.
We did that. Huh?
Yeah, it was a cable committee.
Yeah.
So there's no longer a cable committee.
It's been superseded by Fidium.
Yeah.
All part of it.
Number 35, provide
It's happening very quickly.
CEO with tools, training, and support necessary to enforce land use regulations and ensure proper certification. I'm not sure why the planning board is tagged as part of that. But that was one of the items we had there.
I mean, they've got a training budget and I remind them if they need to renew their certification, so. Here we go.
And establish growth tracking metrics and database for future record keeping, input data going back at least 10 years. Again, so it's planning board, but really the hope is somebody else will be doing it. The last one in the future land use section is the periodically evaluate implementation long range planning board. So that was one of our
Is
responsibilities.
this, the cost plan is the long range plan or is there a separate?
This is actually where it's confusing, because the only other place where it talks about long range plan is back when we talked about that quarterly review with the select board.
20,
Mhm.
yeah, 20.
It must mean the comprehensive plan. I mean, or,
That's where it doesn't say percent, so you can make that an inference, but someone could also say, well, we might add to it too,
mhm,
because things come up. And they might become something that goes for the next comprehensive plan.
right,
So, but the point is, there is a planning board responsibility to evaluate the long range plan, if only our portion of that. Economy section, that is.
Review and amend the site plan review ordinance, to render it more compatible to the needs of small businesses.
Yep, yep.
I think it's a monster. I've been trying to make the checklist you asked me to make. It's a nightmare. It's hard. I gave up. I'm partway through. I'll get back to it, but it's like that ordinance is so
Well,
thick.
Most they were trying to do is create at least we talked about doing years back, was create like a fast food.
Yes, something simpler and smaller, because most of our businesses are so small.
That's right.
The thing was written for like an industrial scale, like a real business, you know,
Right.
not a,
The little strip malls and.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think I had notes on my sheet of some of the things that got missed.
Mhm.
But I think I was able to cover those one through, because that really is, you know, the economy, that's the key thing. We have a role vis-a-vis the economy. And then, knowing in the background, there's also another aspect of which is work with other communities. So most of that shows up as a select board responsibility, but if we can leverage something other towns do, and for us, that could be language from an ordinance. Examples, or business practices that we could adopt.
Yeah.
That comes back to us as well. So there was a real focus on the comprehensive plan from the state of, think region or steal.
Right.
From others, you don't do it all yourself.
And we do that in some cases
Yeah.
already, so that's,
Yes, April does a lot of good research.
I mean, so my takeaway from going through these is everything we have to do is pretty much amending our land use ordinances. That's pretty much, I mean, all of it.
Yeah.
Every issue could be brought back to that. We
Yeah.
need to amend our land use ordinances, so really. That's like the thing we gotta dig into, and we need to reference this, like take an ordinance, split it up, look at it, but. Reference this when we're updating it. Basically, those all need to be updated.
We talked about that and talked about it in prior meetings of the planning board, and that's just a non-starter because it's so big.
Yeah.
So I like the idea. I thought, it was originally proposed of using a comprehensive plan as our to identify targets. Since it's written down as a to-do list. And I approach it that way because saying, let's redo the ordinances, it's just not gonna happen.
I want to redo the ordinances.
It's huge.
I mean, that's one of my
Yeah.
goals this year is to, at least the shoreline and building, just pick up both those ordinances and shake them out and put them back together so they make sense. And it can be done, but
And I still like to work on the site plan review records.
that needs.
But remember, it's not one and done.
Oh, no.
Because a lot of what we're driving here too is other committees have work to do, and then there'll be some work for us. So we need to be checking in with the Conservation Commission particularly.
Yeah.
About what they see.
Also seems to me that there's a lot in here that planning that needs thinking ahead before we revise the ordinances, because it feeds back into it. And it sounds to me, when I listen to all this conversation, that we really need a mapping function where we really looked at the island and said, this is appropriate for agriculture, this is maritime, this is where the critical natural resources are, this is a growth area. And then we can structure or restructure the ordinances in that way. But if we don't make those decisions, I don't know how we rewrite the ordinances.
Well, we made the zoning decisions, right? So we have the 4 zones where we have resource protection, limited development. So we kind of, at some point in our past, I don't know when, somebody made those decisions. Maybe they need to be revisited.
I think there's one thing a lot of stuff now in state standards, state.
Yeah, those,
And we apply.
the zones come from the state and they actually have a bunch more. So we only used 4 of them, but you can
Yeah.
use something like 8 or 10. But somebody decided, okay, that's where this zone is on Westport Island.
I think one of these items speaks to that, what you're describing as a mapping function, in order to address some important issues with the comprehensive plan basis. So I think, that would certainly be an item, and a checklist of things that we want to work on. But in terms of time, we've been at it for about an hour. I think time well spent. So, do we want to take a break and follow up at our next meeting, or go around the table and see what areas pique individuals' interests? It's up to you guys how, if you want to keep going for another.
Well, I've identified the area I'd like to work in.
Yeah,
But I want to make an observation once again, that I think all this business about population demographics, we can parse from different databases, and I think that should be done, because it's done frequently through different areas in here, through somebody actually being assigned to do that, and maybe even getting grant money to do that, make that happen.
is that something you'd be interested in?
No,
Okay.
He's saying it
All right,
needs to be done
let's get to
first.
your list.
okay, so what I would like to really work with is the natural resource management articles that we have here. And that'd be 5, 4, and 3. And almost in that order. And number 1, 2, working. Number 1, I look at number 1 and I think of what are our natural resources that the history committee is looking at, and I can think of the outcrop things along the shoreline, outcrop ledges, the cellar holes inland, the stone walls, and the town hall. Basically, those are the 4 things that I think that need to be identified.
So you said this is the known historical resources that,
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, yeah, so yes.
Yeah, the sleeper mittens, they're there, we don't talk about them too much, because we don't want people to go through around them.
Yeah,
But I think,
so I'd like to work with the history committee on
Yeah,
that, yeah.
to your point, I think that's something we just can't ignore.
Yeah.
I think we need to be proactive.
Yeah.
There's also an issue not in the comprehensive plan, I think, but that is increasingly coming up, and it relates to aquaculture.
Yes.
Right, yeah,
Yes.
Which presents, it's usually fairly benign, but there've been some real disasters
yeah,
in the state, and so there's opportunities to get out in front of it, but I don't think we can just wait and see what happens.
so does that fall under agriculture? Cause it's an aquaculture,
Well, it's,
marine resources.
right, so the select board has tasked the harbor committee,
yeah,
at least initially, to look at it as part of even a broader, there's a whole concept of like a bay plan, or sort of like zoning your waterfront, or not waterfront, but the water itself. How do we use different areas? So they've sort of asked the harbor committee to look into that, and then depending on where that goes, maybe a subcommittee specifically to look at whether we need an aquaculture ordinance. But it's very much on their minds, but they're kind of moving more in the like harbor master, harbor
Yeah.
committee direction.
So, good point. Do we want to, what do you guys think? Is this something we should raise with the select board to say, hey, we have an interest in this, the harbor committee probably has an interest in this too. How do you want to see?
That also came up before the shellfish committee.
Shellfish.
Yeah, it's the shellfish.
That's why I was
Yeah.
aware of it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did a fair amount of work on it, but I'm not sure we need a new ordinance. We do, there's a lot in the existing law that you could take advantage of as a town. And the problems that happened like at Near Point and Damascus River were because the town wasn't paying attention. They
I
didn't
see.
do what they were allowed to do.
I think we
Bother.
do to the maximum extent that we're allowed to do, because we'll get notified of an LPA. In the past, we used to just stick them in the bulletin board, but now the select board wants us to put it on the agenda, really publicize it, there's a public comment period. But even that's a pretty limited tool, because even if someone was like, oh, we don't like this, DMR can still grant the license, like it's pretty.
Yeah, but there are things like the town has the automatic right to register as an intervener in all of these hearings. And usually it doesn't bother. And that means that the local landowners who want to object may or may not even be able to attend the hearing or participate in it.
Yeah,
But if the town is an intervener, then it can represent all the landowners. Automatically, and it has the right to do that.
the select board has asked the harbor committee to look at that issue because their job is maritime issues.
Okay.
And they didn't ask the shellfish committee, because the shellfish committee's job is the shellfish conservation ordinance, so it really wasn't as good of a fit, and we really need a more holistic, like,
The shellfish
committee.
committee doesn't want it anyway.
it's a touchy issue for you guys, because you have people involved in the industry, but harbor committee, we're trying to get people on that committee who understand maritime
Yeah.
in a broader sense, and they can look at the big picture. But if they were going to move towards or even consider an ordinance, most likely they pull people from shellfish who are really interested or concerned about it. So there's still opportunity for cross, referencing there, but in
Well,
terms of like,
shellfish, it's like this.
I know, we know, we know.
Agriculture versus clams. and it-
Yeah, it's a touchy issue, so it needs to be thought of holistically about the waterfront, so really Ted needs to be involved, or Dana, those guys.
The lobsterman,
So the question
Lincoln,
is,
probably,
Yeah.
yeah, that's come up.
so the question is, do you want to take that on and make some recommendations?
I think April's saying it's been assigned to the.
Well, I heard that. But we're an independent body, and if we want to weigh in on it, we certainly can do that. That's the question.
Well,
I don't know why you'd wanna
I
add to your list.
I must make one.
Because there's an interest, right?
I did the work last
Mhm.
February. I mean, I've actually got like a 6-page write-up I already did on that.
Are you interested in the harbor committee? Cause there's alternate spaces left. And so that's where the bigger conversation's gonna happen, at least initially.
Maybe, I'll have to look into it. I hadn't considered it.
but again,
But it's,
someone who's interested can come to the committee meeting when they're talking about this stuff.
Absolutely, it's public and.
Yeah.
Well, and as a planning board, let's not forget who we are. We are the planning board, and we can raise things if we decide to do that. I understand the select board has, expressed a preference, but maybe they really haven't considered what we might offer of that. So the question is, and we don't need to answer it tonight, but I want to keep the question open until we do answer it. And that is, do we want to participate as a planning board conversation?
I'll talk to the Harbor Committee and
Okay,
I'll see where we wanna go with this.
But Nick, I like your thought about doing some mapping and talking about some of the factors that were here in the comprehensive plan. And actually, making it more accessible to map where these things are. To help us understand better, because we talk about it, but we really, like, I can talk to the agriculturally significant soils. But it'd be nice actually to have it laid out so we could all see it, and say, oh yeah, I understand. Another factor, where do we have tree growth? Where do we have stands of timber that are protected, and where do we not have stands of timber that are protected? And a category that we didn't mention in the comprehensive plan is open space.
Yeah.
Because it's another way of protecting
Mhm.
some natural environments.
what I heard Nick saying is mapping in terms of zone. I mean, I don't know that we advance any of these, just mapping where different soils are, floodplains.
That's actually what it's talking about, where are the agricultural significant soils? In Westford Island,
That's-
that's what we're trying to protect.
That's what I'm dealing with here, is
The natural resources.
natural
Okay.
resources in that
Okay.
sense.
But, okay, all right, so we got mapping and then we've got zoning.
Well, it's zoning, but I mean, this talks about agricultural, forest, marine areas, low income, potential for low income housing, growth areas.
You know, like it's
Roads and
in-
transportation, climate change impacts.
Right.
And if we're gonna go down those paths, we kind of have to know geographically where you're talking about this. And you know the island much better than I do, but I don't know where these things are.
Right.
And again, Dennis has done so much work in terms of looking at things, like for density considerations. But I think that would be something fundamental to help us as a planning board to understand.
And it may lead into zoning.
Yeah.
Right, your
But-
zoning has to be based on reality.
Something, yeah.
We don't know. Do you know who made the determinations of where our zones are on Westport, or why we only use 4 out of the many we could use?
That's
or-
back in the midst of history. I think.
Right.
Yeah, that
So,
goes back to earlier.
We
planning
we
board.
could adopt more zones,
Yeah.
there may be zones that address
But we-
valuable agricultural land, for example,
We need to identify those areas.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
To do.
so mapping and then reconsidering the zoning,
But mapping, what is it we have to protect? And
Right.
zoning could help do that.
right?
Potential for hiking paths, any of that
Mhm.
stuff.
So to give another lead in
Others, yeah,
on what I was thinking, on number 3, it says to ensure that the land use ordinances are consistent with applicable state law regarding critical natural resources. I did a research on that quickly and I came up with the actual Maine's critical natural resources are primarily governed by the Natural Resources Protection Act. And then, and the Maine Land Use District Standards, Title 12, Statute 685, Protect the Natural Areas Program, and I've got some definitions on that already, so that's kind of why I'd like to work on that too.
that's sometimes. Did you have any, going around the table, did you have any other things you were focused on?
Well, some of them I just discussed about, I'm presuming we're gonna follow up on the water study since that's in front of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my primary target, yeah, sure. Any others?
Well, I think that mapping function is a starting point for me, and I'd be willing to help out with it. Just don't know how to make the advocacy.
All right, and let's keep noodling about that, because there's, there's. Couple different ways that can go. Sequence center, talking about. Mapping what's on the ground and overlaying that, I would want to, think about using that by now. So, think about the process, get people. Okay. Did you
I think-
have any-
Well,
What's on your?
Mariana, I still want to get back to, the site plan review and try to streamline.
Even though we know other thoughts have to go into our ordinances, I think it would be handy. Would show some life of, on the plan, part of the planning board if we were able to update it.
That's
Are
one
we-
it's one of the actions,
One effort at updating it.
yeah, one of the actions anyway.
No, they plan to do.
Site plan review, make it less of a bear,
Burden
yeah.
for businesses.
But, and again, it's really pretty narrow, in our world, right? I mean, the site plan review only comes into play in terms of commercial development and subdivision, right?
Well, commercial, it's, so the business use of the property, the use of the property.
But it can be a home-based business.
Yep.
So if a home-based business exceeds the set of standard in the building code ordinance, it triggers the site plan review ordinance.
Right.
And if we can clean it up, because it is confusing.
So are you all thinking that the focus is on how to reconcile this, age-old problem of home occupations, or just looking at the site plan reviews to make it more?
Well, certainly the home occupation is something that we've been talking about, but yeah, no, I think to clean it up, make it more readable, useful,
Yeah,
less of a burden on people.
I
It's-
think the businesses are getting better because we're coming up with the forms, as you know. They're so important, but if we have a way for a business to at least register with us and get started and we can evaluate and say, okay, you need a permit.
Mhm.
Or, okay, go over to site plan review. I think we're starting to get it sorted. I'm not as worried about the way it's written up in the building code ordinance now, because as long as we have a process that makes sense.
But look, now it's like you have to go off the cliff. Oh, we have to site plan review.
And then
Oh,
it's
that's
like,
death.
oh, no, yeah,
right.
exactly. Mhm.
All right, we mentioned the water, the presentation is gonna be on for.
The spring.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see.
Hopefully you guys will report that.
Okay.
Yes, we will. Yeah,
Yeah.
with the extra mic if it helps. Um. The key thing, I'm not really interested in one of any of these things. I'm interested in. Sort of overseeing the whole amendment process. I think it's important that one person does the writing,
What do you mean for the amendment?
like amending the building code ordinance,
Oh,
amending,
okay.
like I think it. Great, everyone should research it, and we should, but I think there should be one person typing, because I don't think. Writing or amending ordinances by committee, actually wording works well, I think. One person does it, brings it back, and everyone says that works, that does it. And you change it if it needs changing, but, I don't want us all like. Coming at it, seems messy, so I'm sort of saying administratively, I would like to take on the administrative burden of working on the ordinances as you guys do research and say, hey.
Yeah.
This is not what we need.
Yeah, so so Jeff and I will take a crack at it, then it's all draft material that will be bringing back to the board, so.
Mhm.
Then, yeah, and, and for everybody, as we come up with conceptual things that we want to do,
Okay.
and, keep in mind, not everything we do focusing on this list or the ones we picked has to result or necessarily result in an ordinance or amendments, but, but to the extent they do, yeah, come up with the concept, the ideas, the couple folks to just flush it out. Right, and then we, turn it over to April.
April for the magic, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Because having gone through the LD 2003 process, and the ordinance committee, before that, drafting by committee, as we all know, starts with a horse, turns out then do a look at that and drive. It's very painful, so I don't recommend. But anyway, yeah, so, I think there are lots of opportunities in terms of the water. Just based on what we have now, even before the study, but. For those of us who are working through LD 2003, one of the issues was putting in more water protections in LD 2003. And we didn't, we expressly decided not to as a committee, because the water study was pending, as long as the results of that. Not surprisingly, one of the points the water study makes is LD 2003 has a huge big hole, which is. So that is an ordinance that I see us amending, without really, spending too much time thinking. But, where we go from there in terms of, what's going on. Something.
I'm listening, don't worry, he's showing me a map.
Okay. Is, that, the water study, I think, is gonna give us some opportunity to look at other areas and come up with a more comprehensive, set of language that would apply to all development too. So that's, that's something that I'm excited about working. What we've shown,
Just, one of those neat things over the years is that we, in our, tax maps, we have layers. So we have historical resources, so you can actually see the seller, the
Okay.
locations of buildings.
Yeah.
From 1772 mapping and going back to some of the mid-19th century mapping, and indeed the old roads. So that's there that are overlays, they're not
Yeah.
100% accurate. Like on my property, the locations are not right, but it gives you the idea where they are.
Yeah.
That's historical. What I was showing Nick was the soils. So we actually have a mapping of the prime agricultural soils that's defined by the USDA. Well, then there are gradations as well, but it shows you where we still have some possibility, because mostly you go through and there's already, it's already developed. So we lost it, we lost the bubble on that. But I say, one of the areas is the Perry's, Hopkins Road has a fair amount of prime soils that are still available. And my property, of course, has some of the prime soils. So that's why it's a resource, and it's how can we make that something we can use for planning purposes?
All right.
I did my usual, Libra here because I've got too many ideas, but I have like 8 or 10
Oh, good.
circles, but anyway, I'm not saying yes to any of those, except I'll chat with Jeff, but, I will also look into data. I don't think there's any grants to collect data, because, grants are disappearing, I'm afraid. And, at least for a short time here, so but I'll be, happy to look at the various state and federal data
Okay.
sources.
Yeah.
They just don't collect them at a town level that often.
Yeah.
So,
So if we can, just parse those things, I think
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Make it
yeah.
pretty
I'll do that, I'll
fast.
do that data.
What are great things that you have?
Well, most of them are related to ordinances, really, and I do think there's a lot of overlap, so that's why it's really hard to narrow down to 3, but, I'm certainly, looking at, I'm sorry, just lost it there, hang on. Yeah, really from, the ones that Dick is starting to work on 3, 4, and 5, the build out, I'm not really sure about the build out. Whether that's a decent goal, but.
Yeah.
Land use ordinances for view preservation, for farming, so I think that there's just a lot of goals around ordinances, and I think that, as Nick has suggested, we get some progress being made on. Updating the map, data, and then we prioritize what some of the really land use issues are that we've listed here. But there's just a lot of overlap, so that's.
Seems like a lot to be addressed through the mapping and the zones and updating the zones.
Okay.
Okay,
Do we have a hard copy of the water study? Cause the maps on the online version are difficult to read.
I have a
Oh.
copy if you want to just copy it. I mean, I have one printed out.
The stratics, the stratics, yeah.
The
The old one?
Oh, me.
The new one.
new one, yeah.
I don't know if I have a hard copy.
But
I
it's-
have digital copies.
Well,
Cause when I look at it online and I try to enlarge the maps and a lot of the information doesn't come through.
Oh,
really,
Interesting.
I thought it actually was easier to use sometimes online.
Well,
Some of the wording is just dots.
Is it
doesn't-
PDF? Is it the PDF version?
I'm not sure which version I was looking at, the one that was attached to the,
There were two,
the island notes.
yeah, there was two, one is the report, and then the other was usually friendly interactive.
Yeah.
No, but the report is the one that has the maps.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think some of the
Stratics report didn't have the map.
Which was.
Well, so if you look at that,
And it's actually.
it has a glossary of everything that's
I don't,
Uh,
referred
Well,
to
that's like.
So I got to the glossary.
If you wanna run a copy, just get.
Jeff, do you have a copy of the Stratix thing, aquifer study?
Yeah.
I have something in my files, but it's not complete.
Well,
if I may, I don't have.
what we have, I think is
Copies,
actually
but I'll
as an
try to
appendix
take it
to the.
somewhere.
That's what I have as an appendix,
Yeah.
that I was looking for Dick and.
You have one that's called glossary 2, and then but it doesn't, but that has an appendix which has all the maps and everything.
All these things.
Yeah, so that's what's missing.
Okay, but what I have is in the back of the, of this, unless it's, still filed, and it's in the back of the comprehensive plan, we included.
Oh, okay,
Displays and maps. I don't know that it's everything, but it's what we use.
okay. I'll look at that
Uh,
and see if I can find that.
the other thing, April might be. Back in the small conference room.
Yeah, I'm presuming there has to be a paper copy somewhere of the whole thing,
Yeah,
but I just,
yeah.
I'm unable to find it right now.
Yeah.
I haven't looked too hard though.
Yeah, the original straight, so we're still.
Stratus.
Oh,
Yeah, if
I don't think I have that.
high pixel, 10 pixel version is available, that'd be better, but
Yeah,
So,
No,
I don't know where to get it.
And I haven't played with the new one.
Okay.
Did a year ago, I'm sort of, well, wait a second, I'm sure I'll have to tell you.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved?
So,
Good job, guys.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, good guy.
So I love to work with you on the method.
you what?
I love to work with you on that.
Oh, yeah, I would need your.
Background. But just over the time, there's a number from the USDA has more requirement maps than that we have here. But it's actually, probably it's not gonna be that relevant for what's going on, because the opportunities here, you got ledge. And there's granite, rock and river. So agriculture, not so much. But one of the things that we don't have here would be the tree growth
That's a
property.
big part of it.
And actually mapping this. I've seen somewhere a picture of that, but I'm not sure where that would be.
I'll look around and see what it. But just off the line of the targets and sort of a piece of those, I think.
I gotta head out, cause I got another meeting to go to.
Really, go through it.
That beats me.
Another
I'm done.
My goodness.
I'm done.
You guys all do well.